I did a podcast on this probably 3-4 years ago, and it's my best podcast ever. Hi there, and welcome to this video. My name is Ivan Fiyun, and I'm an international media and tech coach for pastors and ministries. I help them formulate the message that they feel they've been called to give, build the media channels to get that message to its intended for, and build communities around that. I'm absolutely privileged and passionate to share with you today a marketing strategy for your radio station. I don't know if you've ever watched the WWE. Now, you might have a specific hero, a person that you like, a wrestler that you like. You might have a specific show that you like. And this is an exceptional model that I teach, especially for ministries. But here, I want you to see that WWE has lots of different franchises or shows. They have Raw, they have NXT, they have etc. etc. And so this is the strategy that the WWE uses. And I know this is a good topic for you, for ministry to apply, because I did a podcast on this probably 3-4 years ago, and it's my best podcast ever. And so here's the principle. Just like the WWE, if you have an internet radio station, a gospel internet radio station, you know that marketing is important. We want to get as many people to listen as possible. So here's what the WWE does. They have the holding company, WWE, which in your case would be your station. Then they have different programs. They have WWE NXT, which is their kind of collegiate program where the new stars come out. They have Raw, which is one of their staple product programs. And then they have some of the others. Now, that would be your different shows on your radio. Then what those shows have is they have different personalities. So let's hypothetically say you have Raw, and in Raw you have Randy Orton, John Cena, and say Batista. Batista doesn't wrestle anymore, but just an example. So you have those three people. Now what happens is those three people, right, which could be presenters on a show, those three people have personal public platforms, which in most cases is managed and promoted through the big corporate body. Alright, so they have stories that intertwine, and this is where my collaboration strategy, the fourth pillar in my strategy, comes in. They interact with each other and they build their own personal platforms. So this is how it works. They've got their own fan bases. They've got Facebook pages, they've got Twitter feeds, they've got podcasts perhaps. I know that Stone Cold Steve Austin has a podcast and it's doing phenomenal. And that is indirectly a product that promotes wrestling and the WWE. So they've got their shows, like John Cena, for instance. He is on Total Divas, where his wife is a figure, and he is one of the people in the show. So that's one channel where he's present and being promoted. Now, his wife's sister, his husband is Daniel Bryan, and so you can see there's interpersonal relationships, etc. John Cena has his own brand, his own platforms, etc. And so what happens is these three characters, there's lots more, but these three characters having individual platforms, creating their own content, promotes and features on the Raw show. So you might have three different presenters on one show. They have their own platforms where they promote themselves. Because of that, the show is promoted because they are featured in the show. And the shows are promoted and they build followings. And so each one of these, like John Cena has his Twitter feed, his Facebook page, maybe a YouTube channel, maybe a podcast, etc. So that is being built there. He's responsible for that platform. He is on the show Raw, and so Raw, they built their brands, which promotes the show, and then the show promotes themselves and being promoted by the presenters. Now you have Raw, and Raw builds its own following because they have a brand, they have a voice, they have their own culture, etc. And so you see, you have these different properties, if you will. You have Raw, you have NXT, etc., etc. So they build their own platforms, right? Now that these products build the big brand, which is WWE Wrestling. There's other wrestling programs, but we know that there's none of them are as successful as the WWE. So let's relate it back to you. The WWE as a whole, a product, a company, is your station. The different shows is the different WWE shows. So they have WWE, Raw, NXT, etc. And then you have the different presenters, which in turn build their own platforms. And so you see there's this big social proof and momentum being built from the ground up, and it promotes the big brand. And so that should be your strategy in your ministry as well. I've done this before. I know it's successful. We've gone to a ministry, sat around a boardroom table, and we had the different departments around the table. And so we started working in tandem with the main church. We made sure that every sub-ministry flows in with the same message of the church. And so we have the main church, whose platform we built, but we also built the youth ministry. We built the women's ministry. We built the men's ministry. We built the small groups ministry. And so we created content and communication strategies for every one of those departments. What happens in the youth ministry, you might have 2 or 3 influencers. They're on Instagram influencers, they have YouTube channels creating their own shows, they might have podcasts, etc. So they promote themselves. They build their personal ministry platforms, which in turn builds the youth ministry. As an example, the youth ministry builds the main ministry and their brand, and so your message gets out and your church's momentum is exponentially multiplied. And that's how you do it. Thank you for watching this video. I want you not to miss anything, so would you go below this video on YouTube and go and click the subscribe button plus the bell. The bell will help you that there will be notifications given to you when I post new content. Also Facebook, go Ivan Viljoen Ministry Media Mastery and like the page. I will also be honored if you connect with me on LinkedIn. There's a lot of business being done there, but I'm creating content there as well. And then I would love for you to follow me on SoundCloud, where I post podcasts frequently, and also on Instagram.